passed in 1975. Notice of this meeting was given by adopting the annual schedule of location, time, and date, sending copies to the Home News Tribune, posting at Borough Hall, filing a copy with the Borough Clerk within 7 days following the annual organization meeting of this body. I ask you to rise right now for an invocation by Councilwoman Rasmussen, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to welcome all visitors today to our meeting, and I would like to keep in mind the citizens in Texas and Oklahoma that have been suffering tornadoes over the last few days. A lot of people injured, and we would like to have solidarity with them over the natural disasters that we have both suffered over the past year.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Katie, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Wallace.
Here.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Here.
Councilwoman Insero.
Here.
Councilman Grazel.
Here.
Councilman Camerano.
Here.
Council President Muldoon.
Here.
Could we have a motion to open the agenda session, please?
I move to open the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I have 2 items for the agenda session. I am pulling item number 34, ordinance 213-8, which is the revision of the boundaries of the B3 zone. I'm also pulling number 31, which is resolution 2013-120. Some information was missing, so we can't.
Mayor, I'm sorry, it's number 32, the new
Oh, sorry,
agenda.
number 32? Did I get the right number to 213-120?
Right.
Number 32, right.
Okay. So we're pulling that resolution also from the agenda. Are there any other items, Council?
Mayor, I have one. I'd like to remove from consent resolution 2013-110 for a separate vote.
Okay. That deals with the hiring of and appointing the
Yes.
tax assessor. Okay. Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Hearing none, could we have a motion to close the agenda
I
session?
move to close agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We now have 2 presentations, one from Mr. Rogers from Rutgers. Would you please come up? And you could do your presentation for Complete Streets. Welcome, sir. Just make sure you have the mic so that people could hear you.
I'm going to stand here. If that's
Okay, that's fine.
That comes off if you want to hold
You
it.
could move that so you can move
Fine.
around.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, good afternoon. My name is Charles Brown. I'm a senior research specialist with the Voorhees Transportation Center. I also served 6 years in the Army Reserve, so I want to thank each of you for your public service, and thanks for having me here. Today I come to speak to you about Complete Streets, and more specifically I come to talk about the top 10 reasons why the borough of Metuchen should consider adopting a Complete Streets policy. As I stated, I work for the Allen Voorhees Transportation Center. The Allen Voorhees Transportation Center is a national leader in the research and development of innovative transportation policy. We are located within the Edward J. Blausting School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers, which is in New Brunswick. So let's begin. What is a complete street? A complete street is a street that is designed, operated, and maintained with all users in mind. It's important that I stress all users because many people throughout this state feel that complete streets are only for bicyclists. So I want to emphasize that it is all about all users. Complete streets make it easy to cross the street, walk to shops, and bicycle to work. So complete streets are your equity cure. It is definitely, as I stated, for everyone as it considers public transit users, pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, as well as freight. Some of the benefits of complete streets include promoting healthy lifestyles, providing important connections, creating more livable communities, reducing the traffic congestion problem that we have, reducing our reliance on fuel, and as I'll show you, it makes fiscal sense to do it. It's much cheaper to do a street right the first time as opposed to doing retrofits. So why complete the street? Well, quite frankly, the existing streets are currently inadequate. There are no sidewalks for pedestrians in most cases. There are no accommodations for transit users. There are no accommodations for people with disabilities. And streets are really too wide, too dangerous to cross on foot, as I experienced when I walked across Highway 27 and Route 27 coming to this particular building. Also, things are happening. Americans want to walk and bicycle more. Actually, through our research, we discovered that 52% of Americans want to bike more than they do now. And 55% of Americans would prefer to walk more and to drive less. Also, about a third of Americans don't drive. This goes back to the whole equity discussion. This includes older people who decide not to drive, children under the age of 17 for obvious reasons, some people with disabilities, those who cannot afford automobiles, and those who just prefer a car-free lifestyle. As many of you know, streets in New Jersey are very dangerous. New Jersey has been designated a pedestrian safety focus state by the Federal Highway Administration, and places such as Newark has been designated as a intersection focused city. Between 2003 and 2010, there were about 40,000 pedestrians injured throughout the state. There were over 1,000 pedestrian fatalities. Males were more likely to be killed than females, and pedestrians over age 44 were more likely to be involved in a fatal accident. Lucky for us, most crashes occurred on a Friday, and most crashes also occurred in December. We're here today on a Monday in May, so far so good. Now, we want to bring this more down to the local level, speaking in terms of Middlesex County. In 2011, there were 54 deadly crashes in Middlesex County. That was actually the highest in the state. The reason why I'm here is because there are only 2 municipalities in Middlesex County that we know of that currently have complete street policies. That is New Brunswick and Woodbridge. Let's look at Metuchen. The red dot symbolizes pedestrian crashes, vehicle and pedestrian crashes between the years 2003 and 2012. I've outlined what Campbell Elementary School is, where we're currently located in the Metuchen Borough office, and Main Street. You can see for yourself there that there are many dots in those areas, and I'm going to tell you why we must change this. So here's my presentation in terms of the top 10 reasons why the council and the citizens of Metuchen should consider a complete street policy. Well, many will ask, what is a policy? Well, a complete street policy is an ordinance or a resolution that formalizes your intent to plan, design, and maintain streets so that they're safe for all users of all ages and abilities. There are currently 56 municipalities, as shown in green, throughout the state of New Jersey that have complete street policies, and 5 counties. You can adopt a policy at the state level, the regional level, the county level, as well as the municipal level. The town of Montclair was the first in the state to adopt a complete streets policy, and the New Jersey Department of Transportation, which has a policy also, was the second state DOT in the nation to adopt a policy. That policy by our New Jersey Department of Transportation was ranked the best policy in the nation by the National Complete Streets Coalition. Nationally, as you can see by this map, there are currently 400 jurisdictions nationwide that have already adopted a complete street policy, and that numbers continue to grow daily. Now, reason number 1, why should we adopt a policy, or why should you adopt a policy in Metuchen? Because, as I stated, it provides safety for all modes. Currently, you have 69% of your residents who decide to drive to work. You also have 19% that take public transit, and 2% that walk to work. Now, if we're going to make sure that they're all protected, reason number one is important. We want to provide safety for all of them: motorists, children, transit users, freight, cyclists, ADA, and seniors as well, particularly seniors, because as I stated, those over the age of 42, most time when they are in a pedestrian vehicle crash, it's usually fatal. Also, connectivity to access. You all have done a great job in terms of your planning and programming for the Middlesex Greenway Trail. Currently, there are not many particular bicycle routes throughout the borough. So by having a complete street, you're going to provide proper connections to your most important assets, which are your schools, your libraries, this borough, your parks, your trails, etc. Complete streets do that. Also, while looking at some of the census data, 33% of your households have children under the age of 18. If they don't have a proper way or a safe way to get to these assets, we're all in trouble. Number 4, a transit village designation. I'm happy to know that the Borough of Metuchen has a transit village designation. I think that is great. But in order for that to be successful, it depends on people walking to and from this particular location. Here is a crosswalk that we're all familiar with. Even with these improvements, it's still considered by many of your residents as one of the most dangerous locations in Metuchen. We see right here, this is a classic case of trying to do what's right, but it's retrofitting. Many of this could be done beforehand. Streets can be designed properly to begin with, and you wouldn't have to put in place these costly retrofits. Also, Metuchen, I've lived throughout the United States. I must say that Metuchen is one of the prettiest places I've been through. The borough is very attractive. You have many trees, beautiful sidewalks and locations. As you see here, this cyclist is enjoying your roadway. So if we want to maintain your attractiveness and getting people here, we need complete streets. The reason why I mention trees is because research says that you could tell the difference between a poor community and a more affluent one strictly by the presence of trees. I would like to commend you all for your tree program and ensuring that they are in the areas that they need to be, because that helps with the borough's overall attractiveness. Number 6, home and commercial values. You have an excellent housing stock. 96% are currently occupied, 78% are owner occupied, and over 78% of your homes are valued over $300,000. I cannot say that that trend will continue if pedestrians do not feel safe in your community. Many people want to come here because it's walkable, because they feel that there's a sense of safety, etc. But if you remove that safety element, the creative class, which spur economic development, will be somewhat hesitant to move to an area. As I stated, you have like 33+% people here with children. If you come into an area with children, you want to make sure that they can get safely to and from those locations. Reason number 8, this is about the fiscal part. It makes sense because it returns a positive return on your investment. We recently completed this year a report on the economic impacts of active transportation, that is walking, biking, running, infrastructure in New Jersey. We found that in 1 year, active transportation contributes $500 million to the New Jersey community. So if you're investing in this particular infrastructure, you're actually seeing a positive return on your investment. That's why your home values are remaining still. That's why your transit village designation is important, etc. Reason number 9, I'm not just making this up. We've done studies. We've asked people what they want. There's a demographic shift. The millennials are here, and here's what they said they want. We conducted a study, granted using Greater Cherry Hill and Greater Bloomfield, where we asked people, if you had money, how would you want to spend it? Now, the reason why we chose Greater Cherry Hill and Greater Bloomfield is because they represent the state of New Jersey more so than any other in terms of demographic, socioeconomic policies and et cetera. So when it comes to suggested spending distribution, as you can see here at the bottom, we asked them how would they spend their money. Over 20+% said they would build new bicycle paths, whether it's off-road or on the road. They will improve sidewalks, and they will build new sidewalks. They also talked about pedestrian crossing with stripes, and they would love to see more pedestrian and bicycle safety enforcement. Now, we were somewhat hesitant to say with the fact that this is what people wanted, so we broke it down further. We wanted to take a look at what bicyclists said versus non-cyclists. Many people would say, of course, cyclists want more bike lanes, but we wanted to know what cyclists said, and we got the same results. People still want active transportation-related infrastructure, and that's what Complete Streets provide. Number 10, I think it speaks highly of a council that is proactive versus reactive. You guys have an opportunity right now to cement the future of Metuchen in terms of its overall safety, its walkability, etc. And I would like to ask you all to consider adopting a Complete Streets policy in your community, because I think it would further enhance all of the great things that are to be said about Metuchen already. Thank you for your time. Here's my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Are there any questions from the council members?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
I recently attended last week a Sustainable New Jersey in the Arts seminar, and they talked about how the arts can be used in Sustainable New Jersey in actually making streets safer by painting murals, not in all the streets, but I guess they would select an area, select a project. Have you been familiar with any of this? Do you know about any of this?
Yes. As you travel down Route 27 in Highland Park, you also notice that they've put up a lot of new murals on their buildings. The reason why this is important is that blank buildings send the wrong message to people, or sore spots send the wrong message to people. By bringing in art, you enhance the pedestrian experience while they're walking down streets, so they're more likely to be on the streets and enjoying that art. So it's a positive more so a negative. And you'll see many progressive towns throughout, not only New Jersey, but the United States. They incorporate murals because it's public art. It's an opportunity for your residents to be engaged and to put up something that symbolizes their community or represents their community in a way that's different from other communities throughout the state.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Charles, thank you for a great presentation. I think your 10 reasons were quite compelling, and I think they resonate with all of us who have been concerned about pedestrian safety in Metuchen. I have a question for you. I know that when we talk about complete street policy, that isn't one policy, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the 56 towns and 5 counties that have adopted a complete street policy, they vary as to what's in the policies.
Correct.
Can you just give us a brief, just an idea of what are some of the things that are typically included in a complete street policy?
Well, the beauty of creating a policy is that you, the council, along with the residents, have an opportunity to draft a policy that is different from every town in New Jersey. One thing that I would talk about the exceptions, because what's included will include talking about installing sidewalks where there are gaps. I want to first go back and say that nothing I'm saying has to be done right away. Many jurisdictions think that if they adopt a policy, they have to go out tomorrow and rebuild every street in their community. That is not what the complete street policy is saying. What it's saying is when you have an opportunity through the planning, design, and maintenance of your street, you consider these complete streets components, meaning sidewalks, trees, pedestrian crossings, whether they be at intersections or mid-blocks, inclusion of bicycle lanes, etc. But every complete streets policy has an exception. There are towns that say if it is above 20% of the cost to include a bicycle lane, we don't have to include that, and you write that into your complete street policy. If you have a historic community, you don't want to disrupt the decorative pavement, etc., you can write all of these exceptions within your policy. So if you have some concerns from your residents, I would encourage that you sit down and sort of discuss the areas that you all feel are off limit, and you draft that into your policy saying we will do X, Y, and Z with the exception of X, Y, and Z.
So you can adopt a policy that has clauses in there where, so you're not going to the policy is not going to obligate the municipality to spend, you know,
Absolutely
millions
not.
more than they have or need to. So it's,
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The only thing this policy is saying as a vision for you all is that we are going to consider that more than motorists use our street.
Right,
We want to make sure
right.
that it's safer for pedestrian, cyclists, transit users, et cetera. This is very important, being that you have a transit village designation. In order for that to be thriving, your main street to be thriving, people need to be able to walk safely through your town. So it's just about ensuring that during the engineering process, we've considered all modes. The Department of Transportation has a checklist. Every project that goes through the New Jersey Department of Transportation now is being reviewed for proper accommodations for all modes. Now, many, of course, would say, well, DOT has some of the worst streets in the state. What has happened is that DOT adopted their policy in 2009. As you all know, in order for roads to be built, sometimes they sit on the shelf for many, many years. So there were some that were grandfathered in. But I can tell you personally, having worked with DOT on many projects, they are now doing it the right way. Commissioner Simpson, he is dedicated to complete streets. As I stated earlier, they have the strongest policy in the nation. We went around the state training. We conducted 12 trainings. And we reached out to approximately 200, 300 plus engineers, planners, elected officials, educating them on complete streets. So there's dedication from the state level, the regional level, the county level, and now we're encouraging municipalities to consider this as well.
and one last question from me.
Yes, sir.
As we work to formulate a policy, are there resources, are you available, or other folks from the Voorhees Institute to help?
Absolutely. Should you be ready to write a policy tonight, I would stay here all night.
I don't think we're going to do it tonight, but
I would
we'll have you come back.
No, I just wanted to say that to let you know, absolutely. We have resources available. My contact information is here. I can share that with you. Whatever you need, just
Okay.
give me.
Will you send us,
Send me an
can you
email.
email that presentation to us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mayor, I have a
Yes.
question. However, with 56 policies already online, we probably don't have to spend too much time reinventing the wheel.
That's
I
true.
would think that's the beauty of having all of those policies online. But to follow up on Councilman Muldoon's question about cost, I recently wrote a grant for the borough, and I've been looking at other grant applications. Would having a complete streets policy help us win grant money to help us do some of the road work that we need to do in town from the state or from the federal government if they see that we're serious about this?
That question is asked a lot, so I applaud you for asking that question. That's a very important question. Right now, DOT has not adopted a policy where if you don't have a complete street policy, your town will not receive particular funding. But there is discussion going on that it is much more advantageous to have a policy than not have one. But it is not an official policy at the state level.
Not official, but they take note if you do.
I would hope so.
But they don't have many of the things that we've been talking about for our planners here. One is, you had mentioned Route 27, doing pedestrian aisles on Route 27. Jim, if you correct me, I think we met with DOT in 2008 or 9, several times about that, and they were balking at allowing us to do the pedestrian safety lanes in the middle. So you're saying now that that would be acceptable, but they're not interested in funding it.
Well, what I said was DOT adopted its complete street policy in 2009. The discussion that you had was before that. I think now if you go back to DOT, you would have a more receptive DOT. That's not for me to sit up here and say that they will fund your projects or your ideas, but what I can say is that your vision through the adoption of a complete street policy would align with their vision as well, because they were the second in the state to actually adopt this policy. So this is not a case where we're asking municipalities to do something and the state has not done it. DOT, as I stated, was the second in the state to adopt a policy. They were behind the regional trainings that we've done. Many of you will receive invitations to our 2013 Complete Street Summit that will be held at the Rutgers Student Center on October 21st, where you'll get a chance to see firsthand the municipalities that have adopted policies, and you'll learn more about what it means in terms of implementation and adoption. But DOT is definitely committed.
I have
Okay.
another question.
Yes, sir.
Along that same line, since it is a state policy, although we don't have a policy in place yet, is there anything to stop us from asking if current projects that are underway can be in line with the general complete streets philosophy, even though we ourselves don't have a policy yet?
From your municipal engineer,
Right.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. That was another discussion by city engineers. Many of them stated that we already consider all modes as a part of our design. This ensures that you're absolutely positive that they do. So there's nothing stopping you right now from saying, hey, I saw a great presentation on complete streets. I want to ensure that you're considering all modes. And you can sort of issue that directive to your engineer. I think many engineers are already considering the safety of pedestrians. But like I said, this is a policy, whether you do it by resolution or ordinance, that will ensure that people are actually following your vision for Metuchen.
It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Mr. Brown, thank you for coming out, and I, too, enjoyed the presentation. I don't share your enthusiasm about DOT. Our recent experience has been, and it may start at the top where the policy change has occurred, but it's clearly not trickling down. We've had very recent, this year, some discussions where we've tried to alter, to make things more pedestrian-friendly along Route 27, particularly at the Amboy Avenue Bridge project, before they started. And it became very clear to us that the engineers, their goal was really to keep traffic moving as quickly as possible through there, and pedestrian safety was not a priority. We even had a couple of residents who came up with some ideas, and we ran it by, and they couldn't even give it the time of day. Part of the problem is we come into that process so late that the design is already done. I mean, we really, for the most part, in most DOT projects, unless they're major, by the time we see the plans and what they're doing, the engineers have already made that decision.
Yes.
And that's a frustration on our part.
I understand that, and that would be a frustration for me also, sir, but I could tell you that things have changed at DOT. I should have added a slide that showed you their checklist. I could have done that. But I want you to pay special attention to this map. We put a lot of emphasis on Route 27, but look at Main Street.
Sure.
That's where the pedestrians are being hit most often. That isn't a DOT responsibility. What I'm saying is that as the Council of Metuchen, let's first make sure that we have done something to eradicate pedestrian injuries and fatalities throughout the town, and then we'll also go as a united force and ensure that DOT is now adopting the same vision as us. But when you look at this map, Route 27
Yeah, I got it.
is right here. This is Main Street. Look at all the injuries there on Main Street.
No, I mean, we're all very familiar with it, and
Yeah.
we've tried very aggressively multiple things. In fact, I don't know if you were involved with the project at Pennsylvania Avenue with the Voorhees Institute. They've vastly improved that intersection.
Absolutely.
And the flashing strobes that we have now are so much more, it just catches your attention. And I think we've now begun to see people slowing down at that intersection. But we can't do that at every crosswalk, and that's part of our
Understood.
problem.
Understood, and that's why I'm
That
here.
was a tremendous benefit to the borough that you guys helped us design that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm here to let you all know that I wouldn't want you to have to invest in those costly retrofits. You have an opportunity now, especially internally, when projects are being designed through this complete street policy, that you say consider all modes. It costs a lot of money to retrofit things. You have an opportunity now to direct the future. And your main street is very important to the economic vitality of your community. If pedestrians continue to get hit in your main street, less and less people are going to decide to go there. So from a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense to invest in that area through complete streets. No one ever asks us the question, what is an incomplete street? Because you all know.
Good point.
But aren't we retrofitting? We already have a main street, so anything we do is retrofitting. We're not redesigning a
Yes.
whole new street.
Yeah, so that's the unfortunate situation, that right now you can only retrofit. But what you can ensure is that this beautiful project that's coming here, as you can see, he's already laid out a complete street there.
Right.
That was a discussion
Right.
that you had, talks with DOT, and it was difficult, yet and still I see a beautiful complete street here. You have the vision, but now it needs to be in policy. So it's starting to happen. You're doing it. The opportunities that you get to rehab your streets, you have the vision, cement that vision via policy, whether it's a resolution or an ordinance.
No, that's a good point, because, yeah, we know that this council and prior councils and other people in the town have been doing a lot about pedestrian safety. So it's not like you're coming in and educating us on things like, so I think that you make a really good point. Now's the time to sort of codify and formalize what's been going on, sort of piecemeal, under a policy, so that we have something clear and direct going forward that all parties will, abide and, maybe abide's too hard strong of a word, but, care for all the modes. So I think,
Yes.
I think that makes sense.
And I would like to offer that, should you all like to talk to DOT again, please take down my email address, and I'll personally travel with you to talk to them about whatever projects you have. I cannot guarantee anything, but what I can guarantee is that I'm going to be an advocate for pedestrian safety during your discussion with them.
Thank you. I'm going to open it to the public if the public has any questions for Mr. Brown.
Just on this.
On this,
Just on this presentation. Just on this presentation. Well, just come up to the mic and, okay. Just on that one presentation. Okay, I'm going to close it on that. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do you want to go right into Mr. Constantine? Or do you want to wait till later?
let's get
Okay,
this out of
good.
the way.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Your Honor, I move that the minutes of the meetings on November 5th, November 19th, December 3rd, and December 17th, 2012 be approved as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain from
Yeah,
that.
you note that abstention, please.
Yes, Mayor.
So,
Okay. I'll open it to the public now on any matter. Please come forward, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name's Elliot Jarman, 20 Rose Street. I want to address Mayor Bahala and the council in reference to a property at 83 Main Street. The tree was relocated. Thank you so much. And the Department of Public Works and Mr. Hall did a fantastic job. Thank you again.
I'm glad we have a satisfied customer.
Finally. Can I get two things in or just one?
No,
Memorial Parkway and Rose Street. I think Councilman Wallace had something to do with that new stop sign put up.
absolutely.
People can't read. I would like to know if it's possible for you to go and the council to the police department and have a car put on one of those intersections there, because people do not stop at all.
Okay.
That's
I
all.
will talk to the police chief tomorrow morning.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else from the public?
Walter Zowen, 218 Center Street, Metuchen, New Jersey, since 1974, June. I'm also the American Legion commander here for Post 65, which was formed in 1919. This little book here is from 1919 to 1989 of what the Legion is. Okay, it was formed by Teddy Roosevelt under the direction of General Pershing. The reason the American Legion was formed was because word got back to the front in Europe of how veterans were being treated in the United States. The mayor and council of Chicago ordered all veterans who had any disabilities to wear sacks over their heads so they didn't scare anybody in the public. That is why the American Legion was formed, for the protection of veterans, for the United States, to educate our children, and to help our veterans, VNR. That book ends in 1989. The story continues. A lot of people don't know that in this little town here, 15 men formed American Legion Post 65. One of them was Carl J. Roos, who was a World War I veteran He was the head of the Board of Education. He was he was a doctor. Dr. Ruse was head of the Board of Education, which was formed in Metuchen. There were several other doctors that formed this. Dr. Ruse was also one of the gentlemen who pushed through in 1940s, through Congress, the original GI Bill, which most people don't know about. The reason I'm here today is to talk what the American Legion is, because some people have no clue of what the American Legion is. They think it's a little shack on the corner with people that go in there and we rent the hall. And it's a catering place. It's not a catering place, okay? What that money is that is received is donations. And those donations go to veterans, the town, and youth. Just to give you an idea, last year alone, this little post here donated $14,825 to veterans and children and youth programs, and helping in Sandy and other incidents where people were homeless, and giving a children's Christmas party and such. Besides the coloring contests, oratorical contests, and Boy State, which we have 4 boys that this post is sponsoring to learn about the state of New Jersey's government down in Rider College. They're there for a week. This is the first year in 23 years that I've been running the program for this post that I received anybody from Metuchen High School. And I congratulate the new guidance counselor there for making every effort that we have somebody from Metuchen High School. All my other sponsors are boys who go to St. Joe's, Bishop R., and surrounding area. We also donated 5,280 hours of volunteer services between Lions Hospital and Menlo Park Soldiers Home. And these hours and times are just from the American Legion. That doesn't include what the auxiliary does, and that doesn't include what the SAL does. We also support the VVA, Chapter 233 meets at our post, and they do things for the town and the community and community services. Their figures I can't tell you because I don't have them available to me. We also have sponsored Boy Scout Troop 14 since 1921. And the reason why it's number 14 is because it was one of the original Boy Scout troops. It was actually Troop 1 when it was first founded. There are many things that people don't know about the American Legion, and that's why I am here voicing my opinion, because we are not here to delay the project. This project originally started in 1972, which I have plans for, where the American Legion was going to have new facilities built, and that property would be turned over to the town for the development of their parking and whatever development they were going to do at that time. There was also plans in 1987 for this project, which failed to go through, where a building was going to be built. Okay? In 2006, the main draft, the master plan for Metuchen was formulated with the development of the parking area. 2009, same thing. New ordinances to change. So we are not impeding development. We want to see the town succeed. But again, the townspeople have to know that what the American Legion does and why we are here. This book represents to 1989. What has the American Legion done since the GI Bill? The Vietnam Wall. The largest donor was the American Legion. The World War II monument, the largest raiser of funds for the World War II monument in Washington, D.C. was the American Legion. This year, in the Hurricane Sandy, with all the devastations, we lost 9 posts throughout the state, which were totally destroyed. We still were able to raise $200,000 in this state to help individual people that lost their homes. We also raised the money for a new bus for Vineland, a handicap bus for the Veterans Home in Vineland that was raised by the American Legion. Also, Veterans Haven South, which a lot of people never even heard about, is for homeless veterans down in South Jersey. And we just opened this year in North Jersey in Hunterdon County, Veterans Haven North. And that is for homeless veterans and their families. What we also have done is provided transportation for them, because we have a new handicap bus for Vineland that needed to be replaced, and we have vans for Veterans Haven South and Veterans Haven North that is there for the transportation for homeless veterans so they could go out and seek employment. We have also been the leader in the country in the state of New Jersey. We are the leader in finding jobs for veterans. We are connected with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We've had several dozen affairs for hiring veterans. Our biggest event coming up this coming month will be at Giant Stadium, June 22nd, where we have several companies, the state of New Jersey, and a host of other people coming. And what we've learned is when people go into service and they come out, they don't know how to do resumes. So what did New Jersey do? We come up with an idea. We start early with them, we start doing resumes with them, and we put everything together. So when they go over to the company's desk and they say, I want to apply for the job here, they have a good resume, and they have the opportunity to get hired. Our percentage of hiring is 15%. National average, 8%. The state of New Jersey leads, and that is this little rinky-dink American Legion, because it's that core that makes the national and the state programs work. This book here, one of your citizens is in here 15 times. It's called The Battle for the City of the Dead in the Shadow of the Golden Dome. Najef, August 2004. This tells why we still have a problem with war, because it was never allowed to be settled there, in that little city called the City of the Dead. My point is this. I am not here to keep you here all night. I just want to make people aware of what the American Legion is, why it's important to the communities throughout the country, not just here. Not just here. If you take a look at Highland Park no longer has an American Legion. Perth Amboy no longer has a VFW. North Edison no longer has an American Legion. Island no longer has a VFW. And several others right around this area. And if you look at New Brunswick, there is no American Legion in New Brunswick. Their number went to Milltown. That's why Milltown has post number 25, because they transferred to Milltown. Milltown had property, and they couldn't stay in the city of New Brunswick. But it's the veterans, the people that come back, that you need to be concerned about. Those are the people that gave us the freedom that we have. Again, my point is this. We are a community organization, and what we do is for the community. It's not for just veterans. We educate children. We have them at Rider College learning about the government, how to run for office. We have coloring contests in the school, safety essay contests, again, safety, walking in the streets, safety, riding the bike. And again, I know people don't like certain things by them. And I think the town had a good idea, and it was a joint effort to have, by Memorial Park, the American Legion. It seemed a fitting place for something to be next to property that was donated to this town as a park in 1930s by the Mundy family. And it was to be kept as a park. And it came out as a good idea. Unfortunately, there's a lot of opposition to it, and I understand that. But there's always opposition to everything, no matter where you go. People don't like cell phone towers. Where's the food store in town? Where is different things? Where's the park going to be? How come the park isn't big enough? Why is it next to my house? There's people playing it. So there's always opposition. But the town needs to be aware of what the American Legion does. It's also been the leader in Agent Orange to get that uncovered through the federal government. It's also been the leader in TBI. One of the residents of this town was a test patient in Brooklyn VA Hospital because he had brain damage done locally, and he was a test person for the TBI problem that's there now. Everybody hears about it on TV. They see all these people on Wounded Warrior Project and everything. That is what we are. We are the people that take care of these people. Thank you very much for your time, Mayor and Council. Again, my apologies if anybody has any questions or wants to debate any subject about, I'm willing to debate anything on the Constitution, anything about history. Thank you very much.
Mr. Zawin, I appreciate your remarks. I also know that we did try the thematic thing with the Memorial Park, and the residents didn't like it, but I will tell you that we will continue to work with you, the residents, and the American Legion to find a spot, because I know the value that the Legion has and the value of the programs that you have. You didn't mention the recreation, some of the recreation things with baseball, and I know many of the other things that you do with the hospitals, with Roosevelt Hospital. So we will continue to work with you as a mayor and council to find a spot which will work out where we can move the Legion to, which will be, appropriate, and where it will also satisfy the residents in that area. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your information tonight.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
And Walter, make one comment. I think besides giving us all the information about all the great work that you do for the community, to clarify, if there's a perception out there that the Legion is being, an obstacle or whatever relative to this project, I'm glad you clarified that, because that's absolutely not the case. You, as the mayor indicated, we've been sort of partnering and trying to work to a good solution. So I want to just second your point about the American Legion is not being difficult or an obstacle. So whoever's spreading that word should be ashamed of themselves.
It's still a public section. If anybody would like to come forth, just present your name and address. And
Hi, my name is Linda Koskowski. I live at 3 Goodwill Place, and I also have a business at 20 New Street, and I just wanted to thank the council and the mayor. A few weeks ago, I got a violation, I guess a zoning board violation for having a table and chair in front of my shop, and a few of you got a pretty quick note from me and some pictures, and I was pretty angry. But I was really impressed with how quickly you all, every single person that I wrote to responded to me. And then at the I don't know if it was the last council meeting, you changed the ordinance, and I was allowed to put the table and chairs back in front of my store. And I wanted you to know that I really appreciated your response and how quickly it all happened. And so thank you.
Mrs. Koskowski, it wasn't just your store. It was every entity in the B1, the D1 rather, the business district. The B1 was allowed now to put out a table and chair as long as they showed the liability insurance. And we noticed through our investigation that restaurants were the only ones that were approved before, but on the South Main and the Central Avenue, restaurants there were not approved, so we changed it so that those restaurants could have tables and chairs.
Yeah,
outside.
I noticed that as well.
It was inclusive in that way.
Yes, but it felt personal because you all treated, you treated my letter, my email, like it was important. you immediately
Well,
answered me.
It was important. In fact,
Yeah.
I went over and
You
met
did.
with you
You came to my store.
within a day, and when we did our investigation with our zoning officer, he was correct. It wasn't an appropriate thing, so we adjusted that so it would be to make sure our businesses have a little bit more of an edge.
And I thank you. I know it seems like a small thing, but for us, it's really a big thing. People actually use the chair and tables. We have husbands who sit there while their wives are shopping. It matters. So I just wanted to thank you for your responsiveness and, being in tune with what's going on.
I appreciate you coming out tonight. Anyone else from the public?
Your Honor, we have 2 satisfied customers. Can we quit while we're ahead?
It's Ernest Docks, 59 Graham Avenue. I had a question about the crosswalks in town. Is there a reason why we can't have those repainted?
We are in the process. We have worked out with the county, right, Bill, that the county is going to repaint the ones that are in county, and we're trying to get the state to do some of the ones on Route 27 and where the state highways are.
Now, would it be possible to get it like Amboy Avenue and South Main Street? There's a lot of drivers that, drive pretty fast. Is there any way to have maybe the police department check the
I
speeds
will,
on those?
with my other call to the chief, I will mention that.
They were actually out on South Main all last week.
And also that study that the Voorhees Institute did at the train station, you did one of the things that they suggested, the lights, but there was many other
Correct.
ideas on that paper. Was there, any way we could do any more of those improvements?
Are you talking about the traffic study that we had done?
No, the intersection that the Voorhees Institute
I
did.
think Pennsylvania Avenue and the train station.
We did look at some of the other ones, and, what they gave us was a laundry list of recommendations, and some were feasible, and we didn't think some were. I mean, it's a really cluttered, for lack of a better word, intersection with the turns, with the underpass, with the cars coming. It's a very difficult environment.
So with some
we
of
did
those issues, could New Jersey Transit be responsible for some of those things, like if there's walkways or stairs, or
look. I'm sorry, for what?
like walkways or stairs, or making it more accessible? Is there anything New Jersey?
It's a point of frustration for me, because I drive through there all the time at rush hour, and, as much as there's an overpass over the road and stairs on the other side, you still got people walking, and they even cross like 10 feet away from the crosswalk. They walk right across Pennsylvania Avenue, straight across. It's like, could you at least go the extra 10 feet? It's very difficult to program people. We had somebody come in on that issue, and they told us the reason they don't go across Main Street and down the other stairs is because they don't want to wait for the crowd. On their way home from work, they're in a hurry.
I think,
So
yeah.
it's human nature. It's
I think
hard to change.
some of the things we did were the bump outs there to reduce the cross, the distance across, and also to the removing of a parking spot so that people could see, because at one point there was a spot, I think in front of Buttery Bakery, which made it difficult for people seeing, people coming out. And we've also blocked off some of that area, striped some of that area so that people can't pull around the people in the crosswalk as easily. But I'd have to go back with our planner and look at the other recommendations to see. I know we did a number of the recommendations that they had presented that we thought were going to work very well, including the Metuchen standard sidewalks from, I believe it's from the corner of, up through the Buttery Bakery area, that we have the new sidewalks there, and I think all of that is, part of it. But I would have to go back to the study and see what
So
they,
with some of those new construction projects, is there going to be some space for bike paths, or
with which construction projects? Are you talking about
like
here?
with this one or the Food Town area? Is there any way we could fit some bike paths in there?
I think we're looking at that. I'm not sure if there's going to be bike paths in this area, but there will also be a town center green, which we will
What if
announce.
there's a wider sidewalk that might?
I believe there are wider sidewalks on the New Street side, and I believe on the Pearl Street side, too. But there's also, and it's going to lead me into having our planner come up in a few minutes once we close the public section, there is a whole center piazza green area that will be developed to give us, walking and area in that development.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Anyone else from the public?
Hi, Marie Hayes, 64 Essex Avenue. I would like to speak about ordinance 2013-8. I know it's been taken off the agenda for tonight, but I believe that before the board possibly reconsiders this ordinance, the concerns of some of the residents should be brought before the council. My understanding of my neighbor's concerns, as well as my concern and my husband's concern, is the relocation of the American Legion to Memorial Park has nothing to do with opposition to the American Legion or, a quote-unquote not in my neighborhood scenario. This is purely a safety issue. Councilman Camerano and Mayor Valhalla both brought up the issues of Route 27 and especially 27 and Amboy Avenue. And to put the American Legion precisely at that spot where there's already pre-existing difficulties and problems is just going to exacerbate an already pre-existing situation.
I don't want to stop you, ma'am, but that ordinance is dead. I've already pulled it, and it will not be brought back in.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, then that.
And I've already said,
alleviates
and
my
I
concerns.
said publicly after the planning board meeting, that we will work for finding another spot which is acceptable to the residents and acceptable to the American Legion.
Okay. Then that alleviates my concerns.
It's pulled.
And no, but I wasn't sure. I don't know the policies of the council and whether things are pulled, if they're pulled permanently or if they're pulled for tonight.
No, that's a good question, but it is a dead ordinance.
Mayor, may I just
Yeah.
address the speaker? I was at the meeting in the planning board when the residents came in and expressed their concerns, and I think that almost every one of the speakers started with the caveat that they appreciated and understood and recognized the importance of the American Legion, and it had nothing to do with the organization in and of itself. So I don't know how that was reported outside to members of the Legion or publicly, but I don't think you should be concerned with that. I mean, I specifically recall you speaking and others speaking, and I don't recall anyone making any untoward remarks about the American Legion.
Thank you, Councilman Grazel. And I don't know if Councilman Wallace remembers me, but I have been very concerned about the intersection at Rose and 27 for some time now and have been to several traffic and transportation meetings regarding that intersection. So, the safety concerns in that neighborhood have been, kind of on everybody's radar in the neighborhood.
And we heard you at the planning board, believe me.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Valhalla.
Just, if I could just ask you one question. Are you aware that with the bridge replacement, that Memorial Parkway is going to be closed off at that area? There's a curb?
At the end, yes,
Yeah.
that was brought,
Yeah, I just
You know,
wanted to
I
make
didn't
sure
know
you were
that.
aware.
that it will be a dead end there.
It will be a dead end. You won't be able to access it off of Lake Avenue. And that's-
Yes, and that would mean that all of the
Correct.
traffic going to
We're
that
well
parking lot and the Greenway would have to go through Memorial Parkway and Rose Street to get
Right.
in and
No, I
out, which...
understand. I just wanted, it didn't sound like, I didn't know if you were aware of it or not.
No,
So I just wanted to
we
make
are,
sure.
and
Okay.
actually, when most of us found out that that was going to be closed off, and, potentially with the American Legion being moved there, that even brought up even more concern, because that would be even more traffic on two streets that are already kind of problematic to begin with, so...
We weren't
Right.
asked our opinion on it. They just told us they were doing it, so.
Oh. Well, thank you, council.
Okay. Anyone else from the public?
Sean Massey, Highland Ave. I was asleep at the switch before when it was open. I just wanted to come up and publicly thank you guys for having Mr. Brown in from Rutgers. It was a great presentation. He spoke eloquently to the benefits of a complete streets policy. I think it's wonderful that you're moving ahead with it. I think I speak for a number in the audience when I say we're excited about it. We look forward to partnering with the council and other stakeholders in government to develop a policy, help bring one on board. To follow up on a point that I think you were alluding to, Councilman Insero, before, with respect to projects that are already under development, and it sort of ties into what we're talking about over at Lake Ave. That's a policy where I think a lot of us know that those plans were on the shelf dating back to early 2000s, maybe earlier than that. If there's an opportunity to sit down with Charles, who offered to come down to DOT with government officials and perhaps even revisit just their striping, not even get into curb cuts, anything like that, but if you can pinch those lanes from, say, 13 and a half feet wide down to 10 and a half and 11, allowing for more space for buffer on the side for pedestrian thoroughfare and just general vegetation, so it's more safe for pedestrians coming through, whether it's to the park or to the neighborhood back there. I think that's something that we would all collectively benefit from. But in the main, just want to come and say thank you very much. Congratulations. Very excited about what's taking place. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Hello, Tom Rockefeller, 36 Linden Avenue. I'd also like to thank you for bringing in Charles and listening about complete streets. I think it'll go a long way towards, Metuchen's future vision as how it sees itself as a community. So I just want to thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, Tyrene Reuter, 16 Durham Avenue. I'm not sure who instigated it, but the increased police presence by Campbell School is very much appreciated during drop-off in the morning. The difference when there is a car and an officer there and when there isn't is absolutely dramatic. The other day, there must have been a call that came in, the policeman left, and within seconds there was chaos again. So I don't know if the police department realizes just how much of an effect they're having, because people are so well behaved when they see him there that I'm not sure he sees the problems, but I just wanted to say thank you, because I think the increase in good drop-off behavior has really gone up in the last couple of weeks, so I want to say thank you for that. And I just wanted to be a pest and mention that with the Pearl Street project, please consider public art and linking to the Greenway. Try to get some kind of either signage or access between the Greenway and the public plaza. Thank you. Good night.
Anyone else from the public?
Mayor, could I, oh, sorry.
It's still
Is he
public
coming?
section,
Okay, yeah.
so.
Just when it's over.
Are you coming up, sir? No. Okay. Anyone else from the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting.
Mayor, can I just make a comment on?
Yes.
Just a comment relative to the complete street comments that were made. So clearly, the council, we have to figure out our next steps, how we proceed to develop a policy, and I'm not going to do that tonight, but that's kind of to be determined.
Yeah, I think we have to work with our planner, and because I think some of the things that were talked about tonight, we are already doing, and I think if we have to reduce them to writing to a policy, I think that's fine, but I'd like to see a policy that's written for Metuchen, not a boilerplate type of thing. So.
Well, could traffic and transportation work on that over the summer with the planner and with anyone else who needs to be involved, the police chief or whatever, and maybe get back to us by August or September?
Well, I would think that they were going to need more time. I don't know if the traffic meets during the summer. I think they canceled. August. They canceled one meeting in July. So I would say sometime in the fall.
Yeah, I think we have. We have a lot tonight. I didn't mean to bring it up to discuss the process.
Right.
Just make the point that we need to determine a process and the stakeholders.
I will talk to the planner. We'll develop something. Okay. You want to move the ordinances and then we'll go to Jim, or do you want to do the? Why don't we move the ordinances and then we'll go to Jim, so we don't hold him any longer.
Okay, so this is the public hearing on these two ordinances.
Right.
So Katie, you have an affidavit of publication?
Ordinance 2013-5, public hearing. Said ordinance has been published one time in the Home News Tribune according to law on May 10th, 2013.
Okay, I move that the affidavit be received and filed.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Katie, would you read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance to amend the code of the Borough of Metuchen, various chapters to amend certain application, license, and permit fees.
Okay, I'm going to open up for a public hearing on this ordinance and this ordinance only. Hearing none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting.
I move that the ordinance be passed on second reading and published according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano?
Yes.
Councilman Grazel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilman Wallace?
Yes.
Council President Muldoon?
Yes.
Okay, the ordinance is passed.
Okay.
You have the second.
Second one. Katie, would you present that affidavit of publication?
Ordinance 2013-6, public hearing. Said ordinance has been published one time in the Home News Tribune according to law on May 10, 2013.
Is there a second for moving, or do you need-
I have to move.
Pardon?
I move that the affidavit be received and filed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Katie, would you read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance creating the Municipal Alliance Youth Service Board.
The reason for this ordinance, believe it or not, we've had a youth service board for many, many years, and then it became the Youth Service Board Municipal Alliance. And now we're finding out that the state and the county are requiring that we adopt it by ordinance, so that we are still eligible for the grant monies that they get. I think they get up almost $14,000 plus raise a quarter to match that amount. But it was fine for all of these years, but now all of a sudden it has to be reduced to ordinance, even though it's been in existence. So that's why we're doing this ordinance. It's not something that's new. It's already been there, but we have to reduce it to codify it. I'm going to open it for a public hearing on this ordinance and this ordinance only. Hearing no questions or comments, I'm going to close that section of the meeting.
Move that the ordinance be passed on second reading and published according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a roll call vote?
Councilman Camerano?
Yes.
Councilman Grazel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilman Wallace?
Yes.
Council President Muldoon?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we now have our planner do his, before we go to that other section, before we go with our reports and everything, just so we don't hold him any longer.
Will that work if I speak from here? Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm here this evening to basically just give you an overview of the amendments to the ordinance that basically would govern redevelopment.
Jim, I think you need a mic so they can pick it up. Maybe you want to
sorry.
use
You want to use the,
either.
that one out?
Sure. I'm here this evening to give an overview of the amendments, and they're relatively minor amendments to an ordinance that was unanimously adopted by council in the fall of 2010 that basically establishes a planned unit commercial development that would allow redevelopment of the Pearl Street lot. This board, I know, has been in the lobby of Borough Hall for the past couple of months, and people have had a chance to see it, and basically depicts the concept plan that was presented in a little bit more detail both to the council in January, I think it was on the 21st, and also to the planning board last Thursday evening. And in terms of just summarizing what those changes are, I think perhaps I can do it best by just going through what the goals that we established for rezoning in 2010 and highlight what those changes are, and then I can answer any specific questions. The first was to maximize financial return to taxpayers. And while the borough taxpayers, as the owners of the Pearl Street lot, are contributing land by way of the parking authority to this project, some of that risk has also been spread in that there is federal money that we hoped to use and see used for the parking structure, which flows down through the state's Transit Village program. So you have the federal and the state levels involved. And I don't want to steal any thunder, but I know that the county has also stepped up with regard to the public space that's shown here, and that brings us to the second goal that we set, which was to require a reasonably sized town green, which has now really shifted from its prior location at Center Street and New down to the corner of Pearl and New Street, and is proposed to be much more of a public plaza. about 95% of the changes in this ordinance basically are, it's a universal change where the word town green is replaced by the words public plaza. That half-acre space is still there. However, if you actually extend across the streets towards the A&P and to the intersection of New and Pearl and back along the Novita Cafe down to about the bank, the texture treatment there actually ends up magnifying this public space from half acre to probably something closer to 3/4 of an acre, something that was recognized by the county in them stepping forward to assist us. So the taxpayers of the borough are getting federal and state assistance and county support, and one of the success underlying foundations for success for redevelopment is when you start to have multiple levels of government helping to partner with the project versus trying to do everything locally or everything via a developer contribution. The next is we set a goal of assessing and respecting the relationship to Main Street and the district. And in terms of Main Street, by moving the public space down here to the corner, closer to Main Street, and we'll talk in a second about trying to actually anchor it, hopefully with a small grocery is the ideal solution on that. And there's an amendment to the ordinance which reflects that reassessment of market changes by actually trying to incorporate that. So that is one change and shift. I believe that anything that's remaining over here at the district on the other side of Lake will only be enhanced in value by having this in between, coming off the train, walking through a public plaza, along friendly streets down to this end. You're enhancing the value of any properties west of Lake. And by the way, it's also worth noting that at least in the concept plans that some of the retail space that was in the prior plans was on the order of 25 or 30,000 square feet, and what we anticipated would be less and smaller, but actually having a targeted, or hoped to be a sort of an anchor retail space for Main Street in the order of about 15,000 square feet. Mara Stores, at its before it closed, but at its peak, when it had all of these buildings contained in there, was about 16,000 square feet. And you've experienced 30 years of not having an anchor on Main Street, although Mara Stores probably really ceased being the traffic-generating anchor back in the late 70s, maybe a decade before it actually closed. So that is part of, again, the goals of trying to reassess market changes, trying to enhance the relationship to Main Street. The next goal we set was higher quality construction and sustainability, and there's a whole set of companion contractual design standards. I think you had them in your package, called Parking Authority Contractual Design Standards. The first of which is that the proposal that ends up before the planning board be materially consistent with what the Parking Authority saw and approved when they selected the designated developer. And so those design standards are a companion that will help achieve some higher level of standards in addition to what's actually in the ordinance. We then also had a goal of trying to reduce the height and scale of the parking structure, and that is one of the changes that's in the ordinance. Basically, previously, we had a limit on height at the corner of Lake and New, and it's basically this section right here of 35 feet, 2 stories, that remains 35 feet but allows that to go to 3 stories. In our current ordinance, we allow up to 75 feet and 6 stories basically back in here, and it's a form-based code where there are different sort of blocks identified. That's been reduced in height for this entire section to 4 stories, 50 feet in height. And then where the garage is located and this block in here, those have been reset to 5 stories, 65 feet in height. So the tallest portion in the current ordinance, 75 feet, 6 stories, has been brought down, and some of the mass has been moved around within the site. And it's also worth noting, we spent a lot of time with some visual depictions in 2010. We have a 130-foot cell tower about over here on the site, and the catenary also at about 130 feet in height. So there are certainly, though you see them for decades, so you stop seeing them, there are structures out there that are taller. although these will be the tallest buildings in the downtown. And then the last goal we set was trying to have this project act as a catalyst for reinvestment elsewhere. And hopefully that will help induce some enhancements and improvements on some of the surrounding properties, not just across the street, but a block or two away. That's the intent of trying to have this project act as a catalyst for other reinvestment and additional value to the tax rolls. So if you have any specific questions on the ordinance, but I think I highlighted all of the changes.
Jim, you said it's going to be will be the tallest building downtown, but do you know offhand what's the height of the old Borough Hardware? Robbins Hall.
It's somewhere, I believe, in the 40-plus foot range. I don't have an exact height over there, as well as the old bank across the street, which has a boutique optique or unique optique in the ground floor.
Any other questions, Councilman? No? Councilwoman?
I just have one question. Where it says that public sidewalks may count towards the calculation of the area of the public plaza, would that just be the public sidewalk right at that corner?
Correct. That would just be basically you could count in from the curb line on either street. To some degree, those curb lines may become different than today with the shared space treatment, which I think prior speaker indicated is about the highest form of complete streets treatment. So basically, we're trying to take a plaza treatment across the public streets so that for peak events, what I call kind of the high tide events, it might be a town-wide concert, that you could actually close portions of the street and let the gathering space basically spill out into the streets for peak events. You wouldn't do that for a normal Saturday's farmer's market. There would be no need.
But the regular sidewalks, if you were to imagine a sidewalk, they'd be about as wide as they are now, more or less?
They would, but the way the plaza's envisioned, and you can sort of see it here, is that you're not really differentiating the sidewalk anymore because plaza and sidewalk all become one, and so you're really using some visual techniques and spatial techniques to make people feel they've arrived in a square, in a plaza.
So Jim, does that mean there won't be curbs there to kind of make an easy transition and make it accessible?
What we will be exploring is the use of bollards versus curbs, and by making the roadway a little bit more flush, those bollards may pinch the road down a little bit more, some speakers were referring to through there. But I think the intent is to make a motorist coming down New Street feel that they're passing through a public space and make them drive on the plaza as a driving experience so that they slow down, have greater awareness for pedestrians, and if they choose to go another route, during farmers markets and things like that, because there's a little bit more bustle, then people will figure that out.
Any other questions? Jim, thank you again, and thank you for all the work. I know this has been a multi-year project, and it seems like we're finally getting things put together to move it forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So where we go there? You want to just go right with the rest of the, I just didn't want to hold him up.
Okay.
For,
So we'll,
okay.
all right. Communication consent agenda. I move that items 8 through 12 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a report of the Chief Financial Officer to accept.
Oh, okay. I thought, sorry about that. I move that the CFO award of note report be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are at that point where we have reports from the council. Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Metuchen Police Department, the police department recently received a $4,000 pedestrian safety grant from the state, and as in past years, the $4,000 grant will allow our officers to work in an overtime capacity to enforce any and all pedestrian safety ordinances and to identify and address violations. The officers will be specifically targeting vehicles who fail to yield right-of-way to pedestrians in the crosswalk. So a lot of the things we've been talking about tonight, the police will be able to step up their enforcement. And they'll do it in two ways. First, they're going to have some roving patrols with officers, and they'll be attempting to monitor crosswalks throughout the town and observe actions of drivers and take write tickets when they see violations. The other way they'll be doing it is through the use of decoy officers. So we'll have police officers in plain clothes sort of acting or posing as pedestrians and attempting to cross. And there will be another officer sort of taking watch and writing tickets accordingly. And they're going to monitor various crosswalks throughout town, both the lighted and normal ones. They're going to vary it by day of week and hours of day, so they can enforce this again throughout town and different times of the day. And the chief may also be looking into if there's money available to use it for some education efforts on pedestrian safety. So I want to thank Sergeant Leantonio for securing this grant. He does a great job ongoing in securing lots of grants for the police department. And thank the chief and the officers for their efforts to continue to try to make our streets safer for pedestrians and all people who use our streets. My other thing, historic preservation. The Historic Preservation Committee invites the public to an information session on Tuesday, June 11th at 7 p.m. The session's called Honoring Metuchen's Historic Resources, and it's to learn about what the borough is doing to build awareness for Metuchen's historic assets. The presentation will take place on June 11th at St. Luke's Church, Friar Hall on Oak Avenue, and it's going to feature historic preservation professional Margaret Newman, who will speak about the history and development of the Woodwile Park, Middlesex Avenue area, which is, if you've been following my updates, that's the area that the Historic Preservation Committee has been focusing their research efforts around. And it'll also have some information about some of these recent studies that have been done over the past few years with grant money from the county as well as from the borough. So the different historic areas and districts that have been looked at, and also the discussion around the idea to submit Metuchen's first historic district to be listed on the Jersey and National Register of Historic Places. So if you're interested in learning more about Metuchen's history, and if you are really interested and care about Metuchen preserving our historic assets, I invite you to come to the meeting to learn more on June 11th at St. Luke's. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Wallace?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to start by thanking everybody for their concern about the recent health problem I had. I had a lot of calls, cards, and thing, and I'd like to especially thank my colleagues here, Mayor and Councilwoman and Councilmen that visited me and also spoke to me while I was out of service. Hopefully I'm back all the way now. I'm listening. The other thing is I'd also like to compliment the council for being very proactive last spring and taking care of that Essex Avenue problem. The winter's now over, and there was not one problem this winter on Essex Avenue. And I know with the much harsher winter we had this year, if that Essex Avenue problem hadn't been taken care of, we would have had a real problem out there. And because of the situation, the traffic transportation was canceled and some other things. I did miss the Recreation Commission. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rasmussen?
Okay, the Youth Services Board met, and I'm happy to announce that our lawn signs are out to celebrate sober during prom and graduation. So I'd like the residents to take note of it, and if you have teenagers going to the prom, please try to make the point to them that it's very important for their safety and the safety of their friends not to be drinking and driving. Of course, they're underage, number one, and number two, it's really dangerous. So just get that message out to them. I also attended a Sustainability in the Arts seminar with Sustainable New Jersey, and it's a very interesting tonight, having the presentation from Complete Streets, how well something like Sustainability in the Arts was going to fit into the Complete Streets program. So I think it'll be a very interesting synergy when we can get things going. And that's about it. That's it.
Okay. Councilwoman Insero?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a very short report. I would just like to encourage everyone to come out for the Memorial Day Parade on Monday, and just remember that the route has changed. It starts at the New Street lot. Do I have that correct? And then we're going to Edgar School. I'd also like to thank everyone who served, including Mr. Jouin, who spoke earlier at the microphone. And if everyone could just remember what Memorial Day is really all about. Also, I'd like to mention that June 15th, the Farmers Market is starting up, and I'd like to thank Nelson, who's here in the audience, for all his work getting that going. And that should be a really great day, and that's my report.
Just a correction, it's at the Pearl Street lot.
Pearl Street lot, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Grazel?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to remind everyone that the Art in the Garden Tour, which is sponsored by the Metuchen Arts Council, will be held on Saturday, June 8th, 2013, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. The tour will feature 6 gardens at Metuchen homes, and will also have artwork by Metuchen artists. Musical entertainment will also be provided at the different locations. The tour will begin at the BIL, where maps will be handed out. Tickets can be purchased on the date of the event at $25 and can also be purchased from Nancy Goldberg here at Borough Hall. You can also purchase them at Borough Hardware, Marafiki, to be continued, and the Brass Lantern. Proceeds will benefit the Arts Council. I hope you all come out and support the program. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Dennis, do you have a report?
No, Mayor, I have no report.
Bill, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, I do. Briefly,
Oh, sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
I couldn't help it.
Councilman came
I
around.
defer.
Well, you should see what he's working off of, Councilman. It's all backwards.
Am I even on the list?
You're on the
Well,
list, but
you are.
it's not alphabetical, reverse alphabetical tonight, so, and remember, I'm Polish.
It's all right.
So,
If Council President Muldoon didn't point it out, I probably would have let it go. Your Honor, the Pool Commission met last week. They continue to get ready for the summer. Remind people they can still sign up for the pool. It's not too late. You will pay the later fee, which is higher than the early bird fee. The library met last week, and they continue to make progress on the children's room improvements. We were in there, I guess, Tuesday night, and the room has been painted a nice blue, and it looks fantastic. The carpeting was being put in the following day, and sometime this week, we're going to start moving stuff back. So it does look like we're going to be on schedule, if all things continue the way they are, to have it up and running in time for the summer programs for the children. Very excited. We've talked about a ribbon cutting. I think it's going to end up being in the fall, just because there are some issues that won't be resolved until that time. Also at the library board received the retirement of our librarian, who has been there for 27 years at the last meeting. She has decided that she is going to take the opportunity to retire. So we will be beginning the process, search for a new librarian. The pool, by the way, does open this weekend because it is Memorial Day, even though it's early.
yes.
It's throwing me off because it's coming in early. Metuchen EMS meets later in the week. I know we're talking about one issue. Maybe later on I can get an update on the mutual aid agreement.
Right, I think Bill is...
I am working on that.
He's working.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
All right. I have no. The only other thing I'd like to add is, we pulled ordinance number 8 tonight, and I think it's a good example of how sometimes we sit here and come up with an idea. We work with people. We think we have a good idea, and then when we actually have a public hearing and we hear from the public, we realize maybe it doesn't work. So I'd like to commend you for reacting to the concerns of the public so quickly and putting the issue on the side burner. It's a sign that democracy does work and that there is a reason people come out to the meetings.
Especially at a local level.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does work. So
And we will find a spot that will work with everybody being, somewhat happy.
And also, Pete, I just want to make a commentary. I believe it's EMS week, if I'm not incorrect, because I got a message or something.
They didn't tell me.
Correct? Am I right?
They didn't
From
tell
one
me
of
that.
our EMS workers?
It is EMS week.
See, I got the Facebook message from Sue.
Okay.
So, yep.
Okay, now,
I haven't been on Facebook all
Excuse
day.
me, Mayor.
are you okay?
I'm done. yeah.
Okay.
No, you're forgetting me.
No, I'm not. I was going to turn to you now.
Thought you were going to get
No.
up on your soapbox.
No, I'm
I
not
just
gonna-
wanted to follow up on a couple of things that,
Jeez, I'm getting beat up by everybody today.
a couple of the items that Councilman Camerano brought up. The first is a lot of credit goes to the Department of Public Works and Fred Hall for their work over at the library. They were involved in aspects of the renovation, demolition, helped out with the electrical work and various other things that the contractors either didn't want to do or wasn't part of their project, and so I just wanted to recognize them. And I'd also like to comment that I know that there was some concern that was expressed when a certain individual left recently, but we have hired a very well-credentialed individual to cover for him. The individual actually has some credentials that the former person did not have, so that's working out very well. With regards to the pool, I was over there today. There was water in the main pool.
That's usually a good thing.
Yes, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, I can't say that it's warm water, but the filter is going to be charged up tomorrow and start operating, so the main pool is all set. They're still working on the concrete work and the tiling work. We will be filling the pool for this weekend, the baby pool, for this weekend, but we'll have to drain it again and then paint it. So the bottom may not be pristine, but both pools will be up and running. And
Is the
that-
tile done?
Yes, that they were tiling it today, so,
And
yeah, they still have the void to fill, and I'm imagining that they're going to have to do that in lifts, and then put the coping back on. So there's some stuff, but they assured me that they were going to have more people over there tomorrow, and with the main pool being done, then
We're
they can
getting
really
kinda
do.
get close,
always
but
this
we
week,
always
yeah.
manage to
Yeah.
get done.
And Bill, which tile did you wind up with for the baby pool? Because I know I was there looking at some samples.
We ended up with the one that you wanted, Councilwoman.
The nice one.
Okay.
May I ask the Administrator a question, Mayor?
Yes.
Bill, I was hoping perhaps at our next public meeting, we've touched on this before, but could you prepare a public summary of the excellent work the borough did in obtaining recompense for Hurricane Sandy, and explain what impact that has on budgets past, present, and future?
I certainly can. That may be more appropriate for the OEM director, but
Okay.
I will certainly get the information from him. He is an individual who spends a lot of hours when we get a natural disaster, ensuring that all of the departments get all of the numbers into FEMA in a timely manner so that they can review them. It was a very interesting process this year in that FEMA came back numerous times and requested additional information. They appeared to be very conscientious about the amount of money that they could potentially give out, which I think is good, to cut down on fraudulent claims and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, we had there was quite a turnover in the people that came from FEMA, and so the information that we gave in detail to one individual appeared not to make it to their replacement, and so sometimes we had to start over again. But yes, I will coordinate something with the OEM coordinator, and I believe that's the second meeting in June.
Yeah, well, we don't have a first meeting.
Right, it would be the second meeting in June.
Okay. You're done? Okay. I have just a few items. I'm going to start with the fire report. In April, the fire department responded to 14 alarms. They volunteered 120 hours at alarms or emergencies, 334 hours at drills, training, and meetings. I think all of you appreciated the time with the display of the different fire apparatus, so we have a better handle on it. Cadets and advisors volunteered 59 hours. On Mother's Day, the 12th, Sunday, I know that Council President and Councilman Camerano joined me at the CK Plastics fire, which was in the early evening. We had a number of different mutual aid responses with us. CK Plastics had a major fire, I guess, 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, and so we were very cautious with that fire, and the chief asked for mutual aid real quick. They knocked down the fire. It was in a mechanical room, and it was quite smoky, and they did a great job. Then the next day, I happened to be here at Borough Hall and was called out to a fire at KinderCare nursery school, something with people working on the roof, and the children had to be evacuated, and they were evacuated over to the sports complex, which was very good. And both our EMS and our fire and our police did a great job on both days, because, you know, at the KinderCare thing, it's a very difficult area for traffic and people moving around, and you have all these young children moved and parents trying to come in and find their kids, and the calamity that creates. Now, I want to present to the Council President, many of you were with me at the Y. We received an award, the Peter J. Barnes Jr. Community Champion Award, for our work with the Greenway. All right, and here are some of the resolutions from the county and state for us about that. So I'd like to see if we could get that posted in the library or somewhere where it'll be noticed. It was for all of our work. I know that the council people that were with me got up to help to accept the award, and so did former Mayor O'Brien and former Mayor Wiley, because they had a lot of work in that. Former Mayor O'Brien. The other thing is, Councilman, why don't you come up, Councilman Wallace, come up with me too. We sort of brought home the bacon in the way of a grant for our open space for our town center plaza in the amount of $1,095,000. So I want to present you with this check. Don't go to the bank to cash it, especially at one of the drive-ins. But we can get that money for our town center green. It's another part to the puzzle for this project, and we had a lot of help from our attorney from the Parking Authority, Jim Graziano, and the chairperson, Len Roseman, and all of the people that were involved in this, in writing and getting the grant and continuing to lobby the county. So we sort of brought home the bacon in an amount of $1.1 million. So that's very good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And we will put that to good use. It's interesting, when I was there to accept the grant, you know, the county buys a lot of open space in South County, which is very nice, and I think that's a great idea. But the amount of people that are going to be walking on some of those farms is, I think, a lot less than the amount of people that will be using this town center plaza. Okay, I think you're going to see that hundreds of people per day, and then when we have events, thousands of people are using it, compared to, you know, some of the open space areas that are purchased. So we're very fortunate, and we're one of the few towns that got some money this year to do that, and it'll be put to real good use. And just a reminder about the Memorial Day Parade. Also, I believe there is a softball game between the police and the fire that follows the game. And I believe the American Legion will still be serving hot dogs, purchase if you want any other beverages at the American Legion after the Memorial Day Parade. And remember that the site is changed, the parade route is changed from the Pearl Street parking lot and will end at the Edgar School because of the construction on the bridge. We wanted to make sure everything was safe for people. So it starts at, I believe, 10 o'clock, and if you could respond to Katie to let her know so she could respond to the chamber who is going to be at the parade. So please do that within the next day or so.
And Mayor, I had a question. The American Legion is going to be hosting hot dogs on their site, so everyone will walk back from the end point at Edgar School, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be on their site. Okay? Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're, okay. New business consent agenda, right? Okay. I move that consent agenda items 18 through 21 and 23 to 31 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I move that item number 22, resolution appointing the
Assessor.
keep saying accessor, and it's assessor, so, be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Before we vote, Andy, would you just stand up and introduce yourself to the residents and to the council?
First of all, thank you very much for the trust you're putting in me, and I thank you very much for the opportunity you're extending towards me. I truly appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to working strongly and greatly with the best team in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to abstain on that.
Okay.
Okay, bill resolution. I move that bill resolution in the amount of $3,008,906.17 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have a number of ordinances to introduce.
Okay. I move that ordinance number 2013-7 be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
An ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Borough of Metuchen D1 zone.
I move that ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing set down for...
June 17th.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, the
Roll
roll
call.
call vote. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I've lost track of what we're voting
We're
on.
doing,
Wasn't that one pulled?
No.
No.
Item
Oh.
34, 2013-7.
35 was pulled.
Okay.
Correct.
35
was pulled.
So 34 is the Pearl Street ordinance.
Correct.
Correct.
If I may just, Mayor, I'd just like to note for the record, as the public knows, I've been publicly opposed to the Pearl Street project. I'm going to vote yes on this ordinance because I think it's appropriate to continue the discussion and bring the matter to a resolution.
Okay. It's a roll call vote.
Right.
Councilman Camerano.
Yes.
Councilman Grayzel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Insaro.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Yes.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Council President Muldoon.
Yes. Okay. I move that item 36, ordinance number 2013-9, be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
An ordinance to amend the land use, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Bond ordinance appropriating $854,064 and authorizing $552,550 bonds or notes of the borough for various improvements and purposes authorized to be undertaken by the Borough of Metuchen and the County of Middlesex, New Jersey.
I move that the ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing set down for...
June 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano.
Yes.
Councilman Grayzel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Insaro.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Yes.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Council President Muldoon.
Yes. I move that item 37, ordinance number 2013-10, be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Katie, would you read the ordinance by title only?
A bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 2007-3 to include an additional purpose.
I move that ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and public hearing set down for...
June 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano.
Yes.
Councilman Grazel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Yes.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Council President Muldoon.
Yes. And finally, I move that item 38, ordinance number 2013-11, be introduced and taken up on first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Katie, would you read this ordinance by title only?
A bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 2008-7 to include an additional purpose.
I move that ordinance be passed on first reading, published according to law, and public hearing set down for...
June 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's a roll call vote.
Councilman Camerano.
Yes.
Councilman Grazel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Insero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Yes.
Councilman Wallace.
Yes.
Council President Muldoon.
Yes.
I'm going to open it to the public for any questions or comments on any issue. Just state your name and address, please.
Elliot Jarman, 20 Rose Street. Mayor, those little yellow buckets you have on certain poles, is there a chance that we can get 2 of those on Essex and Rose on the poles if they're available? So when we go across the street, we make a better target because the people don't stop.
We have right now, this is a pilot program, okay?
Yes.
And we're having our traffic officer and our police investigate to see if it's working, okay? And we were allowing for a few months to get data to see if it's working. And then we could have traffic and transportation talk about that intersection with our police and make a recommendation to us once we find out if the program is working at the other 2 pilot places.
Appreciate it.
Okay?
Thank you.
All righty? Anyone else from the public? Please step forward, just state your name and address.
Nelson Lee, 16 Bounty Street. I have a question about the Pearl Street development,
Yes.
the retail space in particular. Who drives finding the vendors who will populate?
In this case, it'll be the developer.
Okay, so there's been talk about how we'd all love to have a green grocer there, and I think that's a great idea. What if the developer decides, well, I can't find a green grocer and I want to put in a bicycle store or something?
I didn't hear what you said.
What if the developer looks for a green grocer, can't find one, and comes back and said, well, I'm going to put something else in there? Is there a point at which the borough or the town can give input to guide the developer on alternate choices for filling the retail space?
I think we have been guiding him, and I think he's working hard to try to, find that. But I don't think you could say to him, look, you got to put this particular thing in or this particular company in and handcuff him in that way.
Right.
Okay?
But ultimately, it seems like the developer is the one who
The
is
developer
obliged to
has been
find.
one of the reasons this developer was chosen was because of his willingness to work with us throughout the project. And he has listened to us, and, it's his benefit, too, to come up with something that the town wants and works well with the development. So, we can't handcuff him and say, look, you got to put this particular thing in there, but I know he's working with us to try to get that developed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay? Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public section.
I move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.